Welcome to Little Seeds of Faith, a podcast where children help read a treasured Bible story, and we get a chance to explore and talk about the lessons we learn. Hi, my name is Joanie, and I love reading. My most treasured book to read is the Bible. The Bible has great adventures, love stories, stories of hope and truth, and most importantly, stories of faith. Welcome to Little Seeds of Faith. Today, I have Anna and Drew with me, who are two sisters, and they are going to introduce themselves. So here, Anna, would you like to go first?
Yeah. My name is Anna. I live in New York, and I'm 11 years old.
My name is Drew, and I live in New York, and I'm 8.
Anna, can you tell me 3 things about yourself?
Sure. My favorite colors are black, yellow, and peach color. I love snakes and cats, and we have 2 pet cats, which are named Oreo and Buffalo.
All right, Drew, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I like playing soccer, and my favorite color is purple and black, and I like swimming.
We are going to be reading. Somebody like to tell me what we're reading today?
Sure. Passover?
We're going to read about the Passover. I just recorded the other day the story of the 10 plagues with somebody with a Nook from New Zealand. And we went through all 10 plagues. So we skipped over the Passover. So I'm glad you girls are willing to read the Passover with me to finish the story out of the 10 plagues. I felt that they needed to be separated out a little bit. So where, Anna, does the Passover fit in with the 10 plagues?
Well, it was one of the last plagues.
Right.
When it was the firstborn dies.
Right. So this is right before the 10th plague, the very last plague. Drew, can you tell me about the plagues, about why there was plagues in Egypt?
Well, because God was gonna has a plan. He was gonna have Pharaoh's harden out of all of them until the last one, so they could leave.
Why was it important for the Israelites to leave Egypt? Is that where they belonged?
Well, no.
No, where do the Israelites belong? Do you know, Anna?
They belonged in the Promised Land.
Yeah, why do they belong in the Promised Land? We're going to test your history here, test your knowledge here, girls. So the Israelites, they're in Egypt. Why were the Israelites in Egypt?
Because Joseph brought them what was there with his family, and then they descended from them. Yeah,
that's a really good word, descended, right? All their descendants who lived in Egypt, and they grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And I read with Jillian in the podcast the story about Moses was a baby, and there was a new Pharaoh in the town then. And remember that new Pharaoh when Moses was a baby, what did he do to all the babies?
Kill them?
Yeah, he killed them, right? He wanted them killed because he was fearful of the Israelites getting too big and overtaking Egypt.
But the princess found him and wanted to keep him.
That's right. And so this is how we have Moses today. And this is the same Moses we're talking about who was there, who talked to Pharaoh and said, let God's people go. And Pharaoh said, no, 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 no. And so God wants his people back in the Canaan, where the promised land is. Who was the land promised to?
Jesus?
Way, way, way back. Before Joseph. Somebody had to leave their land and they had to travel to the promised land. The part of the promises.
Oh, Abraham.
There you go. Of Abraham. The promises of Abraham.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And so these are, the Israelites are in Egypt. They're Abraham's great, 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 great grandchildren that are there, okay? And so the land was promised to Abraham. Did Abraham ever live in that land? No. It's okay. So he didn't live in that land, and so God still is trying to fulfill the promise and get the Israelites back to the promised land, okay? So this is where we are. So we have the 10 plagues, and this is God getting the Israelites out of Egypt, okay? And we are at the very last plague here, where there was a special thing that the Israelites had to do before they left Egypt. Shall we begin reading?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to be reading from Exodus chapter 12. And these are the instructions for the Passover. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt,
This month is to be beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year. Tell the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day on this month they must each select an animal of the flock according to their father's families, one animal per family.
If the household is too small for a whole animal, that person and the neighbor nearest his house are to select one based on the combined number of people. You should apportion the animal according to what each will eat. You must have the unblemished animal, a year-old male. You may take it from either the sheep or the goats. You are to keep it until the 14th day of this month, and the whole assembly of the community of Israel will slaughter the animals at twilight.
All right, so here's the first command. What are they supposed to do?
They're supposed to take a male from a sheep or a goat. And they're supposed to kill it at twilight.
At twilight on the 14th day of the month. Do you know what day they were supposed to bring in the animal into their house? On the 14th day? Or was there another day that they're supposed to bring it in? On the 10th day of the month, okay? So on day 10 of the month, they were supposed to take an animal, and it was supposed to be a male, into their house. And what else? It was supposed to be a male, and what's another important characteristic that's supposed to be?
Blemished.
Unblemished. What does unblemished mean?
It means like not hurt or have like, a like hurt. Yes.
Not hurt? What else, Anna? Unblemished. What do you think unblemished means?
No spots on it.
And no injuries.
No injuries, yep, and no spots on it. So it's to be this perfect lamb, okay? So on day 10, you bring this little lamb into your house. And then on day 14, like Anna said, you're supposed to bring it into your house. And at twilight, everyone is going to have to slaughter. What does slaughter mean?
Kill.
To kill the animal, okay? What's it like having an animal in your home?
Well, it kind of depends on what animal.
Okay, what do you think if you brought a lamb into your house?
Well, it'd be kind of hard, but it'd also be fun.
You would have to clean up after it.
You have to clean it. Yeah, there'd be lots of cleaning up after it. I know you guys have definitely seen lambs before. What do you think of them? Are they pretty, cute animals?
Well, baby ones.
Baby ones, yeah. They're kind of cute, and having an animal that you have to take care of and feed and clean up after. Do you think you'd grow attached to that animal just a little bit?
Maybe.
Yeah. And so do you think having to slaughter it might be a little hard?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the point of it, to have somebody into your house.
Especially a baby.
Especially a baby, yep. Into your house, taking care of it, and then you're going to have to slaughter it. So here's another thing they're supposed to do, okay? So they're slaughtering the animal at twilight. Then they must take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the houses where they eat them.
They are to eat the meat that night. They should eat it roasted over the fire along with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. To not eat any of it raw or cooked in boiling water, but only roasted over fire. It's hard.
No, its head.
Its
Try
head,
it again, yep.
as well as its legs and inner organs. You must not leave any of it until morning. Any part of it left until morning you must burn.
Here is how you must eat it. You must be dressed for travel, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. You are to eat it in a hurry. It is the Lord's Passover.
Okay, we're going to pause right there real quickly, okay? So we got a few more instructions here that they were supposed to do. Bring a lamb into their house, right? Take care of it. Kill it at twilight. What's the next instruction?
They have to put its blood on the doorposts.
Yeah, so...
And then eat the rest of the lamb. And they couldn't, have any in the morning, but if they did, they had to burn it.
That was a really important first step. Part of the first step of selecting the lamb is making sure that you are only selecting what your family could eat, right? So if you were only 2 people in your family, maybe you'd go to your neighbor's house and they would share lamb there, okay? Or if you had a big family, maybe there's 20 people in your house and maybe you'd have to have 2 lambs or a big lamb in your house. It was really important for them to figure out what amount they could eat, okay? And not to have any leftovers. And how are they supposed to cook the lamb?
They have to roast it over the fire.
Right. So they couldn't boil it. They couldn't eat it raw, right? And they had to eat every part of it. And if they didn't eat all of it, they had to burn the rest of it. Okay. Okay. And then what was another thing they had to do? How they ate it?
They had to be dressed for travel, and they need to have their sandals on their feet and holding their staff.
Right. So this wasn't a feast, right? This wasn't a sit down and eat for hours feast, right? This was to eat quickly. Why was it important for them to eat quickly?
Later in the story, that in the morning they Pharaoh would let them go and they need to be ready.
Yeah. And so it's in the middle of the night when Pharaoh finally says, I've had enough. No more plagues. Go get out of my sight. Okay. So they had to be ready. All right. Let's continue reading. Drew, you're up.
I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night and strike every firstborn male in the land of Egypt, both people and animals. I am the Lord. I will execute judgments against all the gods of Egypt.
The blood on the houses where you are staying will be distinguishing mark for you. When I see the blood, I will, here's a key word, I will pass over you. No plague will be among you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt.
This day is to be a memorial for you, and you must celebrate it as a festival to the Lord. You are to celebrate it throughout your generations as a permanent statute.
The blood on the doorpost is what? A sign for God to what?
Pass over that house.
Passover. That's where we get the name Passover from, right? Because God passed over their houses because they followed God's laws and rules and what he asked them to do and put the blood on the doorpost. So he's passing over them. All right. And then what Anna just read was that this day has been a memorial for you. And you want you to celebrate it throughout the generations. Do the Israelites still celebrate Passover?
Yes.
Yes, they do. So from when this was set in place to today, people still celebrate the Passover. This is one of those feasts and things they have never forgotten. Let's continue reading.
You must eat unleavened bread for 7 days. On the first day you must remove yeast from your houses. Whoever eats what is leavened from the first day, though the 7th day, must be cut off from Israel.
All right. What is unleavened bread?
That means it's not rice. That means that it's flat.
Right. When you put leavening in the bread, does it take a while?
Yes.
Yeah. It makes it. I don't know if you girls ever made bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've made unleavened bread.
You've made unleavened bread, right? And that's a pretty fast thing to do. You can make it, you can mix the flour with the water, and you can make bread really quickly. But when you put leavening in the bread, it takes a while. You have to let it sit for a couple hours, sometimes even a day, to let it rise and come back. So if the Israelites are supposed to eat in a hurry, do you think having leavened bread or unleavened bread would be the better bread to have?
Unleavened.
Yeah.
Unleavened bread would be the better one to have, definitely, because they're supposed to eat in a hurry. So they can make their bread and go without having to wait for it. And so that's important. So they were not even supposed to have any leaven in their house from the beginning of the month. And if you were to eat leavened bread, you'd be cut off. Okay? And still today, people will, right around the Passover, they will go and make sure there's no leavening agents, no yeast in their house during the time that they celebrate Passover. So they still do this today. It's very important. Right? So after the Lord tells Moses to tell the people things, Moses goes. Now he's summoning all the elders of Israel, and he's telling them what to do.
Go select an animal from the flock according to your families and slaughter the Passover animal.
Take a cluster of hyssop, dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and brush the lintel and the 2 doorposts with some of the blood in the basin. None of you may go out the door of his house until morning, when the Lord passes through to strike Egypt and sees the blood on the lintel and the 2 doorposts. He will pass over the door and not let the destroyer enter your house to strike you.
Keep this command permanently as a statute for you and your descendants will you enter the land that the Lord will give you as he promised. You are to observe this ceremony.
When your children ask you, what does this ceremony mean to you? You are to reply, it is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, for he passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt when he struck the Egyptians, and he spared our homes.
So the people knelt low and worshipped. And the Israelites went and did this. They did this just as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. Now at midnight, the Lord struck every firstborn male in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the prisoner who was in the dungeon, and every firstborn of the livestock. During the night, Pharaoh got up, he, along with all his officials and all the Egyptians, and there was a loud wailing throughout Egypt, because there wasn't a house without someone dead. He summoned Moses and Aaron during the night and said,
Get out immediately from among my people, both you and the Israelites, and go. Worship the Lord as you have said. Take even your flocks and your herds as you asked, and leave, and also bless me.
Now the Egyptians pressured the people in order to send them quickly out of the country, for they said,
We're all going to die!
Exactly. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, and their kneading bowls wrapped up in their clothes on their shoulders. The people, they were ready for this, right? They grabbed everything, and they're going to go.
The Israelites acted on Moses' word and asked the Egyptians for silver and gold items and for clothing, and asked the Egyptians, and the Lord gave the people such favor with the Egyptians that they gave them what they requested. In this way they plundered the Egyptians.
We're going to pause right there real quickly, okay? So we're at this last plague. We have all these plagues, the water to blood, the frogs, the locusts, the lice, the boils, the pestilence, the darkness, the hail, okay? And I think I'm missing one, but that's okay. They have all these things that happened, okay? Finally, this last plague comes, and their firstborn dies. Are the Egyptians finally ready to let the Israelites go?
Yeah.
They're so ready. They say, take all of our goods. Here's our earrings out of our ears. Here's our bracelets. Here's our gold and our silver. Just get out of here. We don't want you or your God here anymore. They're tired of all these bad things happening, okay? So when you think about this, when was all the silver and gold used later on? When they're
in the temple?
In the temple, right? So that's, yeah. I mean, you think about the Israelites, they were in the wilderness and they had to build the tabernacle, right? And where did all the gold and silver and all that come from for that? Came from the Egyptians, right? They were slaves. They didn't have the stuff. But the Egyptians were so ready for these people to go. They gave them so much stuff, right?
So the Israelites traveled from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 able-bodied men on foot, besides their families. A mixed crowd also went up with them, along with a huge number of livestock, both flocks and herds.
All right. So was it just the Israelites that left?
No.
It says there was a mixed crowd. What would be a mixed crowd? Do you guys know what that is?
Maybe like different kinds of people.
Yeah, so I think some of the Egyptians were like, yeah, we want to go with them. Like we're tired of living here. So it wasn't just them. So there was not just the Israelites. So there was other people that went along with them. There were 600,000 men on foot. That's not including their families. So is this a small group or a big group?
Big.
Yeah, a really big group, okay? And so they traveled on foot. And this is just people?
No.
It was their cattle and their animals.
And the herds.
The herds, right? They had, so imagine, can you guys picture that in your head? A big, huge group of people stampeding. Oh, no, they're not stampeding, but walking out, leaving, okay? And we're going to continue reading. Drew, I think you're up. We're down there.
The people baked the dough they had brought out of Egypt into unleavened loaves, since it had no yeast. For when they were driven out of Egypt, they could not delay and had not prepared provisions for themselves.
The time that the Israelites lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of the 430 years, on the same day, all the Lord's military divisions went out from the land of Egypt. It was a night of vigil in honor of the Lord, because he would bring them out of the land of Egypt. This same night is in honor of the Lord, a night of vigil for all the Israelites throughout all their generations. This is why they still practice this today, because it is a night to remember that the Lord brought them out of Egypt. All right. Thank you guys for reading that with me. That was a lot to read. So can you tell me what your favorite part of that story, of the Passover, is?
I like that some of the people obeyed God and did what they were told to do. I think that we should obey God from reading the Bible.
Yeah, it was really important for them to obey God at that time, wasn't it? Yeah. What was the punishment if they didn't obey God?
Their firstborn would die.
That's a pretty big punishment, isn't it? Yes. And so I think they also had seen and been a part of a lot of the plagues. They were like willing to listen to God and follow him. All right, Jerry, what was your part of the story here?
When they got out of Egypt.
When they got out of Egypt. Yeah, when they finally got to leave after 430 years, they got to leave Egypt,
And
right?
It was funny when the Egyptians gave them all their stuff without thinking, basically.
I want to ask another question about the Passover. All right? We don't celebrate the Passover. I said that a lot of people still celebrate the Passover. We don't celebrate the Passover today. Do you know why?
Why? Because we can't.
We know we can. We definitely can.
Not sure.
Okay, so let's think about what the Passover is, okay? So the Passover was, what did they have to do? They had to bring what into their house?
A lamb.
A lamb into the house, right? And what was important for the lamb? What did they do?
They had, they killed it.
They killed the lamb, okay? And it was, the lamb was a perfect lamb, right? They brought into their house a perfect lamb. Can you think of another perfect lamb that was sacrificed?
Jesus.
You got it, right? Jesus. So the Passover points us all the way to Jesus and his sacrifice. Every single Sunday when we go to meeting, what are we remembering?
Jesus.
Jesus, right? His death, right? His sacrifice, his blood, and the unleavened bread. So almost like every Sunday, we have a little mini Passover. Yeah, what do you think of that?
Well, the adults, because we don't eat that stuff.
The adults do, right? The adults do. But you can sit there and you can think about that too, right? When you see the unleavened bread and the wine, and we are thinking about Jesus, and he was the perfect sacrifice. And so we go back to the Passover, we see that as a looking forward to Jesus. Isn't it amazing how the Bible works? How there's lots of the same things that always points us to Jesus. So we see Jesus in this Passover that the Israelites did. But was Jesus alive then?
No.
Do they know who Jesus was?
No.
No, right? Like they really wouldn't have known at that time. And so, but they were learning about that perfect sacrifice, which is really neat. All right. I'm going to start with you, Anna. So is there a time in your life when you have felt that God was taking care of you? Like that God was taking care of the Israelites this time? Was there a time that you felt like God was taking care of you?
Yeah, kind of. Whenever I feel scared or lonely, I sometimes pray to God, and then I won't feel that scared or lonely anymore.
Yeah. So in that time, after you pray, you feel like God has answered your prayer, and you feel like you are not so scared anymore?
Yeah.
And so God's been taking care of you during that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know that when you are scared or lonely, where are you going to turn to?
God.
To God. And because you've seen that He will make you feel better. Very good. All right, Drew.
Once when I was sick, I prayed to God, and I asked Him to help me get out of it. And the next day, I wasn't sick anymore.
So you felt that because you prayed, that you felt better the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two really good things to think of. And the key thing that both of you guys talked about was that you prayed to God, right? Like that is a very important thing to do, is when we are worried or we're sick or we don't know what's going on, to pray to God, and He'll give us much comfort, and then we can see Him taking care of us, right? Because He is a very caring Father. Awesome. So I think we have one question from Anna and one question from Drew about what we just read that you guys can think about at home. So Drew, would you like to go first this time?
Do we still celebrate Passover?
Yeah, that's a question to think about. Do we still celebrate the Passover today? And why or why not?
Well, we do and don't.
Yeah, we do and we don't, right? That's a good thing. So people can definitely think about that and look into that more. I think it's a really good question. All right, Anna, what's your question that you have?
When we were reading, it said that it was the firstborn male that died. So why wasn't it just the firstborn, like a male or a female?
Yeah, because you're the firstborn in your family.
Mm-hmm.
So would you have died?
No.
No. You wouldn't have, right? Because you're the firstborn female. So why was the firstborn male? That's a really good question to think about and to maybe ask your parents about. And maybe they will help you figure out that answer. All right, great. Thank you. So before we say goodbye, Anna and Drew, do you have a fun fact, words of wisdom, or a joke? And Anna, you can go first. What do you have to share today?
I have a fun fact about a sheep or lamb. Their pupils are rectangular.
Their pupils are rectangles, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder why that is. What shape are our pupils?
Circle.
Round, circle, right? And so theirs are a rectangle. I wonder why that is.
Like an oath.
All right, Drew, what do you have for us today?
What do you call a man lying in front of a door?
What do you call a man lying in front of a door? I don't know. Tell me.
Matt.
That's a good joke. Thank you. Thank you, girls, so much for reading this with me today. I had a lot of fun.
Me too.
I hope this podcast planted a little seed of faith in you today. If you would like to read with me, go to wcfoundation.org. Click on the Little Seeds of Faith icon, scroll down, and there you'll find a spot that says Apply Here.
Did you know that some of our outreach programs help those in financial, medical, and emotional crisis? Bad things happen in the lives of many. We believe in helping those who have stumbled. This includes assisting in the cost of emergency medical procedures, help to those who have lost employment, or those facing a sudden challenge due to emotional difficulties. If you would like to donate, please visit wcfoundation.org and look for the link Invest in Faith.
How can you grow faith throughout your whole life? WCF's Faith Launch program is designed to help you answer that huge question as you embark on your own life journey. The answer matters because the true measure of our life is faith, learning to set aside our instincts and to trust God and His Son. You develop this faith in the decisions you make, the relationships you form, and the trials you encounter. Faith Launch gives you a set of strong faith-building tools, connects you with a network of peers and mentors, and helps you reflect on the best faith plan to help guide you through your journey. Faith Launch starts fall 2020 and is aimed at young adults between the ages of 18 and 35. There is no cost to participate, and to better accommodate your schedule, much of the program will be delivered online. The program wraps up with a final retreat to weave together key learnings and send off participants with fresh faith inspiration. To find out more, visit wcfoundation.org/faithlaunch.